Hello everyone, welcome to the very first session of D365 Mastery Series. My name is Santosh Kumar Durgam. I'm a co-founder of Improvise IT Private Limited and also a solution architect on Dynamics 365. Through this Mastery Series, we want to share our knowledge to the customers who have already been using Dynamics 365 and also the consultants who are at the early and mid stage of their careers. So we're going to be covering some of the advanced and critical topics on Dynamics 365 that would help you in your implementations. In this very first session, we're going to be looking at the email configurations in D365 Finance and Operations. So you'll be learning almost everything that you have to be knowing in the email configurations. So that will help you to configure the system to send out the emails to the users. And at the same time, how do you troubleshoot the different scenarios if at all you face some challenges in your email configurations? Let us get started. As you mostly know, the very first configuration that you will touch to start with your email configurations is your email parameters. So the screen would look something like this, where you get onto your email parameters and provide the required information here. So recently, I've seen a lot of messages in the community that talk about despite of providing the valid username and passwords, you still get some authentication issues. So that is the first thing that we're going to be looking at. And after that, you will learn about the different email providers and what is the real use of them. And also you learn about the organization templates and system templates and all of them. So let us get started. I will take you to my application right now, and if you go to the email parameters, I just searched for it, and you go to your SMTP settings. So this is where typically we provide the outgoing mail server, the SMTP port number, the username and password, right? So there is no secret here. You find your outgoing mail server and SMTP port numbers here in your Microsoft article also. So it talks about you can use your smtp.office365.com as your outgoing mail server. Most likely, these days, majority of the implementations we have the users using the Office 365 accounts, right? So you should be using this as your SMTP server, mail server information here. Okay, so you provided that and you provided your SMTP port number and these details. And typically what do we do now is, we go and test our connection. And you are pretty sure about your username and password, and you have checked it. If the mailbox is working, it is working. So despite of you doing all of these settings, you may still see this problem that the mail authentication failed. And then you start looking at everything. So what's wrong with my email ID and what's wrong with my password and everything. So the real problem is basically, if I go back to my PPTs, there are two things that you have to be knowing. So in Azure configuration, you have some security default settings. So that is something that has to be changed so that your email will start working. So what is this? So let us talk about it a little bit. When you tried logging into your Dynamics 365 system, I'm sure you might have noticed that when you try to enter your username and password and everything, you're going to be getting your two-step verification code. So you will get a verification code to your phone, or else you will use your authenticator app to provide your password. So that two-step verification is something that automatically gets configured for the Azure Active Directory, which is now called as Microsoft Entra ID. So that setting is by default enabled for all the Azure accounts. And even the customer to whom you are implementing, mostly that setting is enabled. And because of that, what system does is, it will not complete the validation. It will not complete your authentication because the D365 system does not support that. That multi-factor authentication is not supported. Then what did we do for our Azure Active Directory is that we have disabled that security defaults. But I'm not recommending that you disable that security defaults, because if you disable that security defaults, all your users under your tenant will not be enabled for the two-factor authentication. So you may still have to keep this enabled. And what do you need to do is you will have to disable the two-factor authentication for only your particular email ID that you are using. Okay, so the D365 alerts email ID that we have configured, yes, only for that particular email ID you can go and disable the multi-factor authentication. So that is the first thing that you're going to be doing. And remember one thing here, I don't want to complicate and I don't want to take you into the multi-factor authentication disabling and everything. So I'm just letting you know what you have to do to fix that problem. So work with the system administrators at the client side or at your organization side, and then show them this hint so that they'll be able to help you to move forward there. So that is one setting that you have to remember. And additionally, if that account is configured as an Office 365 user account, because typically what happens is this D365 alerts mailbox, if that is created as a user in your Office 365 tenant, then if you go to that particular active users and pick up that user, there is one more setting that you have to take a look at. So I'm going to my D365 alerts user account and go to mail. So this is where you see this email apps. If you click the manage email apps, you have to have this authenticated SMTP enabled. So only when this authenticated SMTP is enabled, the SMTP authentication that we are doing from our D365 system will get authenticated. So let's just give it a try. Now I'm getting back to my email parameters and I'm doing the test connection one more time before I enable that. So let us see if you're going to be getting the same error. You see that? Now what I'm going to do is I go and enable this authenticated SMTP and then save changes. So this is done. Now let's give it a retry. So I'm just waiting for it to give me a success message now. So let us give it a couple of more seconds. Yeah, you got that. You see that? Now I got this message successfully connected to the outgoing mail server, right? So this is how you resolve your problems normally. Okay, so even if you're just doing some testing with your user ID, because normally it happens that consultants will provide their username and password and then give a testing. So even then you have to follow the same steps, right? So that is the first thing. Now, you know how do you resolve this, correct? Now what I want to take you to is to the test email, okay? So in the test email, typically you have multiple email providers, okay? We're going to be understanding what is this email provider. How do you really use it? So during our testing, let's try this now. I take this email provider that has EML, okay? And then I want to send a test email to my own email ID, that is this, and then say send test email. So when you say send test email and you have selected email provider as your email, that actually what it does is it will get you a file downloaded onto your downloads. You just open that file. That is nothing but your email draft. You just open it up and this is what it looks like. So the test email that has to go to the user, it gets downloaded to your or downloads as a email message which you have to open and then you just trigger send. So this is one way of sending the emails. That is what that email provider actually means. Okay. And the next thing is, you got your email provider IDs Exchange and SMTP. So these are the two things that we have. We are going to understand them better now. Okay, so what will happen if at all I remove my passwords here, because I don't want to provide any password, and I'm disabling this completely. Okay, so basically I don't have any emails set up here, and I go to the test email, and I want to still do a test email and then see it. So I select the email provider as Exchange here, and then I want to send the email to this one. So do you think the email would go now, or it does not? I don't have any credentials here. So let's just see what will happen now. I go and send the test email ID. You see, the test email was success. So let's just also wait for a minute. You see this? I got my test email right here. Okay, I got the email from Santosh T and to Santosh T. So how did that happen? Because when you provide the email provider as Exchange, you are actually telling the system to do this test using your Exchange credentials. So I have logged into this system with my own email ID, right? So typically that is how even you will do it. You have your Office 365 account, and that is added as a user into your D365 system. So which means system will be able to access your Exchange credentials. So with that, system was able to send the test email to your email box. Okay, so that is how, even without you having a SMTP email address, your system can send the emails from the D365 system. So it is not only here. I just want to give you a couple of more examples here. I go to my other tab. Let's just duplicate this. And I have one of my report that I just want to send it to somebody. I go to accounts receivable, and I've got this customer base data report. So in this customer base data report, this is a report that actually gives the basic information of the customer. So what I'm doing here is I've changed the destination to email. So typically this will be set to screen, right? And only for this purpose, I've changed this to email. Okay, and then I'm canceling this. I've provided that email ID, and in the records to include section, I've asked the system to send this report only for one particular customer, because I don't want the system to take a lot of time to include all the records in one particular report and then send it to me. So that is the reason I'm filtering this report to send the data only for this particular customer. And then I say OK. So what will now happen is, even though I do not have any email configured in the SMTP settings, I still manage to send this email to the respective people that I need. Let us open up this email that we have got. I open this and I see my customer base data. So I see my customer information and whatever that is available in that particular report. So that is how the emails will go to the required mailboxes, even though you do not have the SMTP parameters there. Now, let us do another test now. So I go to the same test email, and this time I am going to change the email provider to SMTP. So now I'm doing the same thing, send to this particular email ID and say send test email. So this is the time that you're going to be facing a challenge, because you are now asking the system to use the SMTP credentials that you have there. So you see this, your email failed to send because of invalid SMTP credentials, right? So because of the reason we don't have any SMTP credentials available here, system is unable to send an email. Let us now take a deeper look at this one now. So we did try sending the test email through the email parameters, and it did go successfully. So what I want to show you now is there is a specific email framework implemented at some other places. So one of such places is your collections process. So I'm going into accounts receivable customers, and I will pick up one of the customers who are available here. Let us go with the Sparrow Retail. So if I pick up this customer and I go into this collections module, by the way, this case we are looking at here is, let us assume that as a collections agent, if I got a call from customer to send out their statement of account, how do I send it? Okay, so I go to this particular customer, go to collections, and through your demo data, you're going to be seeing all this data, all these open transactions and everything. So you can also very well practice this. So when I be in this form, I can email the statement to the contact person of the customer. So when I go to this statement to contact and I say, okay. So system is asking me, how would you like to send email? So this is exactly the same email provider selection that we were making in the email parameters. So if you say use an email app such as Outlook, what it does is it will download that email into your downloads folder. You just open up and send that from your Outlook client. Okay. Otherwise, if you want the system to use the Exchange email server, then you can use this option. This is where we said one of the email providers we have is the Exchange server, right? So using the Exchange server credentials, Exchange credentials, system will be able to send the emails to the recipients. Otherwise, finally, I can tell the system use the email client for finance and operations apps. So if I choose this as an option and say okay, so what system is now showing me is it is getting me my from address. So based on the user that I logged in with, it's getting me my from address, and this is the contact person from the customer side. So for now, let me just change this and then provide my email address here and say this is statement of account. Okay, and whatever the message that we wanted to drop, so we can draft it and then send this. So notice one thing here, you have also got your attachment added, and when you say send, so this is time system will try and send the email. But again, this one will not go because of the fact that when we use that third option, then it again looks at your SMTP credentials, because the third option is nothing but your SMTP exchange provider, sorry, SMTP email provider. Okay. Now, if I want to send this now, I can again go to statement to contact and say, okay, and use the Exchange email server. So because of the reason we did not provide the SMTP credentials, I'm telling the system to use my Exchange mail server and say, okay. And let's provide that ID one more time. Okay. So we sent that. Yeah, you see here, I've got an email, statement of account is now received. So this is how the Exchange email credentials will be used by the system. And this is actually one nice example that Microsoft even provided in the their article. So that is the reason I took the same example. So it is easy to relate and easy to practice if you really want to take a look at this. So if you look at the email framework here, at some places in the system, we have this option of choosing how we want to send that. Okay, so you'll be able to choose that Exchange server, or is it SMTP credentials. But honestly speaking, all of this is going to make things a little difficult for the users, right? Because as a user, they don't really care. They don't even know if they have to use the Exchange server, SMTP and all that. So that is the reason here I'm again introducing you to another simple setting at the user options level. So at the user options, if we want to use the Exchange server, it is recommended that you provide the email provider ID here as Exchange. Okay, so you provide the email provider as Exchange, so system will not show up that message box just now what we looked at, right? And then the sender email ID is by default considered as your email ID with which you log in. Okay, and if at all you want that to be a different email ID, that is where the administrator of the system will be able to set up a different sender email ID. So this is certainly in some cases where a clerical user is trying to generate the statement of account and you want to basically put up a manager's email ID as a sender email ID. So in such cases, what you can do is for that particular clerical user, you'll be able to set up the sender email ID as a manager's email ID. Then system can use that sender email ID. Okay. So with this, let us close this now and let us give it a try again. So I'm going to do the statement to contact and say okay. So this time you see, system did not ask me how you want to send that. So do you want to use the Exchange server or do you want to use the SMTP server? No, nothing like that. Now I'll send this directly. I provided my subject as statement test 2 and let us send this now. Okay, so you see this is done. So I should be getting an email now. Right, while we are waiting for the email, yeah, you see already we have got the email. So this is the statement that is emailed to my email box, right? So this is done. Now, so through all this learning, what is so clear now is that you'll be able to use your Exchange server. You don't need to really provide your SMTP credentials and resolve those errors by disabling your SMTP authentication for the O365 user, or else disabling that Azure security default settings, all of them. So you'll be able to still use this Exchange server as your email provider ID and then send the emails out from D365 system. Okay, but in any case, for some reason, if you have to use the SMTP parameters, then you also know now how do you fix those problems. Okay, and you also got the better clarity on these things. Now, if at all you got to troubleshoot this email issues, somebody claims that, hey, we did not receive the email, or we are not receiving the emails about certain things, then the very first place that you have to check is your email history. So within the system administration, if you go and again look at the inquiries, I'm sorry, let me just look at it here. So that should be, oh, I have it here. So system administration, and within the setup I have this email and email history. So email history is a place where all your emails that go out from Dynamics 365 will get stored, and you will also see whether it is a success or not. Okay, and also if you look at some of these emails, you also see something like sent interactively. So if we are sending an email through that interactive email draft window, so that is where this sent interactively message will show up. Okay, and if I look at some of the other ones, my old ones that I was just checking, you will not find that flag for all of them. For example, you see this approve purchase requisition. This is about the workflow emails. That is not an interactively sent one. That is something that is sent through a bad job. That is something that we're going to be talking about later in the part 2 of this email configuration. Okay. Now, so email history is the place where you have to look into when you see that people complain about the emails where they're not receiving the emails, etc. Okay, so this is another important point you learned. Now I'm closing this, And I want to give you a quick understanding about the email templates, and with that we're going to be closing this. So we are now looking at the email templates. So in the email templates, generally, if you knew this, there are two types of email templates we have. One is organization templates and the other one is system templates. Organization templates are something which are available for selected company. So if you create the templates by getting into a form called organization templates, those templates are available for you only in that company in which you created them. And system templates, these are the templates that are available across all legal entities. So if you go and create a template in the system templates, then in whichever the legal entity that you log into, you'll still be able to access that template because that is available across the system, okay, in all legal entities. Now let us quickly take a look at that. So I have this organization email templates within organization administration setup, and use this list option so that you'll see all the different templates that are available with the demo data. I will now create a new template here. So let us call this template name as SOA, which is statement of account, and the sender name. First let's fill in the sender email ID. So sender name and sender email ID is basically when this email is going out from the D365 system using this particular email template, what is the email ID to be used, and what is the name that should appear when the customer sees this email in their inbox, or when the recipient sees that email in their inbox. So the sender name here, I'll say this is customer improve IT customer collections, or else customer service. Okay, so that's how we are creating this template, and now I'm creating the message content. Looks like I've created one already. Let's go and check that. Yeah, so as part of my testing I've already created one. So what do we do is, let us call this as SOA2 and save this. So when I go to this email message content, this is where I can specify what is the email message that should be available in this particular template. Let us select some language here. So this email message is applicable only for EN/US language. That's what we are specifying here. So subject is, let's say, statement of account, and then I edit. So this is where we have to upload a file, an HTML file, so that system can convert that HTML content and then put it in the email body. Okay, what I did is I just created a simple text file with the content that we need and stored that as a HTML type file. Okay, I'll just open this right now and upload. So this is just as simple as that. So because of the reason I did not put the details in the real HTML format fully, I just don't have that the next line and all of them. So dear customer, please find this, and this is what the summary. Okay, say okay. Looks like there's something wrong. Let's try saving it one more time. Yeah, looks like everything is okay now. So I've saved it. Now what we do is we go to a place where we can see how we can use this email templates. So before that, let us just cross verify something. So I'm trying to duplicate this tab, and I will switch over to another legal entity, USRT legal entity, and you should not see the new templates that we created. And if at all you see this, the templates here are completely different, and the ones that we created are no longer available in the USRT company. Okay, So that is the reason we said the organization email templates are going to be available only in the company in which those are created. Now, we looked at how do we create the email templates and how do we put up the email message there. Now let us go to the accounts receivable and AR parameters. So what I'm trying to actually show you is, when you create the email templates, it is not just enough that you create a template. You have to tag the email template somewhere in exact which process that you want to use that. Only then system will be able to use that template and then can trigger the email using that template. So one such example that we are looking at right now is about this customer collections thing. So within the collections tab here, I have these email templates. So here I have the statement to contact. So here I use my newly created template, SOA2. Okay. So because of the reason I'm adding this template here, system can use this template now. So what do we do now is, let us go back to the same form where we were previously and then say statement to contact. Now say okay. So you look at this now. So the important point that I want to make here is that your sender email ID. So your sender email ID is being picked up from your template. So whatever the template that you created, so based on that template, the from address is picked up. Okay, and then your subject and your message body has also come up here. Okay, now I can send this. So this is how we can use the email templates. And I know that this is not a common process that all of us will use, right? So let me just send this first, yeah, and then we talk. So I've got this email. Firstly, let's see that. You see, this is my mailbox, and I've got an email from D365 Alerts, and it talks about the statement of account. Okay, so that is how we can use the templates in many processes, and this is just one of that places. As I was saying, this is not a common process that all of us will normally use, right? Because this is finance specific area. And similar to this, we're also going to be using the email templates in the workflows. So that is where our next topic is. So what we're going to be doing is, we will look at how do we use the workflow templates, how do we create the templates and then use them for workflows, and what are the configuration that we have to do to be able to send the workflow alerts to the users. So that is something that we're going to be looking at. So to close this and to summarize, my recommendation is, yes, you can use your Exchange server credentials without needing to provide your SMTP credentials there. So that way, what will happen is that you don't need to really do all that configuration changes of the Azure security defaults and your SMTP authenticated flag in the O365 user. Okay, and then you also now understand what is that sender email ID and what that has to be set to, everything. Okay, so that's all for this. See you in the next part, and I hope that you have liked this. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you really like us, just do follow the LinkedIn page and also subscribe to the YouTube page. Thank you so much. See you.